are here at BaM Live London. Thank you, Stuart Ray, for chairing our first session of the day. Your session was about how media tech suppliers remain relevant. What would you say your key outtakes from that session were?
Well, I think what was very useful on the panel was having both suppliers and end users effectively on stage together. So you're getting the two perspectives on that whole chain of delivery, I suppose. I think there were two key things for me. One was communication. So vendors, suppliers being able to communicate clearly and effectively with end users, and of course vice versa. That's a really important thing in this process. And through that, hopefully really good communication, you get a build-up of trust. And once you have trust between an end user and a supplier, the world is your oyster, really. And if with trust comes the ability to say no to people. And that's sometimes quite a difficult thing, particularly for small vendors to do. So I think the two key takeouts for me were related to each other, communication and trust.
Hello and welcome to Lorenzo Zanni, Head of Knowledge at IBM. We've just had a very interesting session on leveraging market insight in the generative AI era. Could you let us know some of the kind of key discussion points that came out of that discussion?
Definitely. So in the discussion we talked about first the most important trends in the industry. I think the key takeaways were that digital distribution is growing and traditional distribution means are being deprioritized. And also that anything related to content, like for example content preparation and storage, is growing as well. Then we have a very interesting discussion about generative AI and its use for market research. And I think there were a lot of key takeaways from that. I would single out that prompting is a skill that is going to become more important in the future. Of course, that we have to take the output from generative AI tools with a lot of critical thinking, and we cannot use it for everything. And in terms of market research, that we think is going to Gen AI is going to become more important in the future, but the human insight and the inputs we give to generative AI will be important as well to fine-tune those models.
You were in our session today on scripted and live. What did you pick up?
Yeah, it's really quite interesting that the movie industry seemed to be going through very similar sort of pains that we've been going through and looking for sort of holy grails of trying to bring interoperability together with various standards, metadata, for instance, and also looking at how they bring together the cloud, hybrid workflows and things like that. So there's a lot of synergies between the movie workflows to the broadcast industry.
Well, I thought bringing the Movie Labs 2030 vision was important, particularly for our people. That does have a lot of overlaps. What's really nice, though, is they've just made a clear statement. It has to be hybrid.
I think that's some of the problems we have in the broadcast industry, because whilst we've got a lot of specifications and standards bodies, it takes us a long time to actually get that interoperability working. And sometimes I think it could be important for us to react a little bit quicker to the changes, and the manufacturers are sometimes moving away from the standards or the specifications because they now have new functionality that doesn't fit within the standards. So I think it may be quite important for us to maybe look at working in a way that maybe lays down a few more ground rules and we try and stick to them, but equally we've got to try and move a lot quicker. It's a very fast-moving industry.
Well, certainly they have ground rules, and that's great to see. Thank you.
Thanks.
Hello, welcome Bia Alonso. Bia, you've just moderated a great session on media tech trends and how they become another tool in the box. And what are the key discussion points that came out of that session?
Really interestingly, and of course, as you would expect, AI was a big part of that conversation. We discussed how there are different use cases around AI today, and specifically there was something really interesting around AI in virtual production from one of our panelists, and how they plan to use it in 2024 to create avatars and to bring people from the past. I thought that was fascinating. But also less perhaps glamorous uses of AI were discussed around captioning and how it's allowing people to automate tasks that typically would have taken quite a long time to do manually before. The cloud was a big discussion point too. We had some great audience participation around that and how companies are adopting the public cloud for their media workflows and how that's really becoming a reality. And then one more area that we discussed was around innovation and what does it mean to be innovative as a media company and also as a vendor and media technology provider. What do you need to do to be innovative for your buyers and for your customers? So all in all, a really great conversation, and I think we came away with some really useful tools for 2024.
Welcome, Anna Claire from IBM. Anna, you've just moderated a great discussion called Shades of Convergence. Could you give us some of the highlights from the chat?
Yes, that's right, Paul. So, as you said, I just had a session on shades of convergence, and why we call this session Shades of Convergence is because convergence is such a wide topic, and that affects the industry on many levels. And the perspective that we wanted to focus on is on general purpose technology and also its impact on entertainment consumer experiences. And for this panel, that's why we had speakers from the supplier side of the industry, but also a broadcaster, so they could bring together their insight on how this convergence is impacting cloud computing, AI, the consumer experiences, as I mentioned, through the different platforms that consumers are able to watch content, and as well the tension that it creates and the dynamics that it creates in the industry between how you adapt to those technologies, but as well what are the capabilities in terms of skills, something that we mentioned.
Lorenzo from IBM, you've just led a fantastic session on how media companies can not only survive but shine. Could you perhaps let us know some of your key talking points from that discussion?
Definitely. So I think the key takeaway is that there is more competition for media businesses as they have to compete with the likes of YouTube, social media. And we've done a poll on that at the start of the session. And we discovered that TV is not at the top of the list for platforms to focus on for media technology suppliers and media businesses in the next 2 years, which was interesting. And then we talk about the convergence of content. If you look at both media businesses, but also the creator economy and also the content produced by non-media brands. We agreed that there's increasingly less difference between these types of content, and so media businesses should focus on some things like trust in order to create some differentiation.
Martin and Stuart, welcome from IBM. You've just both moderated a really interesting session on bridging the talent in media tech. Could you just let us know some of the key talking points?
It was a great session, I have to say, first of all. Really interactive, brilliant panel, lots of engagement from the audience, because it's something that we in the industry feel very passionately about. So we talked about ways of improving awareness of roles in the media and entertainment industry, especially for young people. A lot of people at uni and before university, at school even, don't really understand the great opportunities there are in the industry for technical roles. So it's how we do improve that. And there's lots of great conversation about that. We were talking about improving diversity and inclusion within the industry, and all sorts of other great initiatives, ways to improve the pipeline of people coming into the industry, people improving the retention of people within the industry as well. So a fantastic session.
Yeah, I think one of the other things that came out was that although we talk a lot about young people and new talent coming into the industry, there's a lot of people in their sort of mid-careers that also may well be really well suited to working in this field, and they're kind of a forgotten generation almost in terms of the media tech industry and broadcast. So I thought that was a very interesting point that came out as well. But overall, I just agree with Martin. A brilliant panel, great audience, really enjoyed it.
Stan, I thought that was a great panel. Thank you for doing such a good job at orchestration of all of us CTOs.
Well, I think we did have a great discussion on that, and everybody had a different opinion. But, you know, we focused on what happened with roadmap changes over the previous year, and we really went forward going next year.
Post-COVID, it's going to be interesting to see how the categories that we settled on last year and the year before that, how those categories go, such as remote production. Maybe that's just the norm now. Maybe we don't need to have that as a separate category.
Well, you know, some of it just goes under networking at this point in time,
Yep,
and where
that's
that
right.
fits.
And also, what I really liked was we got deep into the discussion between orchestration, automation, and security. Those things are all three tied together, but they're very different in and among themselves. So I thought that was a very interesting and deep panel, discussion.
Welcome, Hemini. Hemini, we just heard you give a really crucial talk on how media tech companies can implement an effective ESG strategy. What were your key takeaways from the discussion?
My key takeaways were that actually ESG is really important. It's not a nice to have anymore, it's crucial to have. And I think organizations need to be on board with understanding what it is because they have to look at all these what was considered soft areas earlier on, but not so soft anymore in the sense that they are important. So for a company to work with other companies, they need a great sustainability strategy. They should be moving towards a net zero strategy, following the Paris Protocol, but also the idea that we also need diversity, equity and inclusion for attracting amazing talent, especially the younger generation that are coming on board, to attract different viewpoints, to attract fresh talent, and for them to be part of an organization. I think they need to feel that they belong to that organization. So that's my key takeaways.
Welcome, Jerry Getmer, new IABM CEO. How have you enjoyed your first annual conference?
It's fantastic. I think after 40 years in the television industry, having never attended one, this has been remarkable. The quality of the people, the quality of the content, the organization of the event, superb. That's really, it's an experience that if you haven't participated in, you probably should.
Great stuff. And any key highlights, any key takeaways from any of the sessions you just wanted to pick up on?
I think it was very interesting to get the variety of strategies and opinions around some of the more current technologies, particularly around AI and around standardization of technology, those sort of things. What I found interesting is the range of various commercial strategies and various product strategies around those topics.